Okay, so you mentioned burnout. The term teacher burnout is definitely a buzzword. I think especially since COVID, as we've seen teachers, like you said, there's walking away from education, by the hundreds. We've heard those reports. And of course, a study like that just shows how we have all those openings sitting, and I'm sure that's just representative of the whole nation. There is a lot that gets stuffed into that term burnout, though. I'm just burned out, people say. What do you think is the actual problem?
Yes. So it is it is an overused term, I'm convinced. A term that we tend to use for every time we have a problem. But if we're talking about it in terms of stress, teacher stress, then it is a very real thing. It is a very real problem. I'll give you just a few common stressors for teachers. And this is from my experience of researching this, as well as just my own experience working and talking to other educators. Classroom discipline is a big one for teachers. A lot of teachers are burned out because of classroom discipline. Now, I do think that's a bigger problem in public schools than it is Christian schools, but even still, behavior management, classroom management, rather, that's a big issue for a lot of teachers. And if they've not been able to really learn how to do that well, that'll stress you out in a heartbeat. You don't want to show up the next day because the kids rule how will we say, the inmates are running the asylum. And that's how you feel if you haven't learned how to manage the classroom. And then conflict with parents is a really big issue that burns a lot of teachers out. They haven't learned how to deal with that, or they just have some really, really difficult parents. Now, I'm one of those folks that I'm not quick to throw parents under the bus. I think our Christian school parents are good people. I think 99 out of 100 have their kids in Christian school for the right reasons. But people are still people. And we have to learn how to deal with that. So a lot of it also has to do with expectations. And yes, maybe the school's expectations, the parents' expectations on the teacher, even the administrator's expectations on the teacher. But a lot of us place more expectations on ourselves than anybody else does. And that can add to stress as well. You've got some schools, and I wish it weren't this way, but they just do not have a good working environment. And that's the onus is on the administrators and school leaders on that. But that's why school leaders have to work hard to make sure that it is a good working environment in their school, a good place to be employed, plenty of support. And then sometimes just good old fashioned workload. I mean, it's just, you're expected to do a lot in one day.
That's right.
And
Christian schools cover a lot of
yes. And it's not always what you got your degree in.
That's right.
Some would say it has nothing to do with what I got my degree in. So there's a lot of different things, but yes, burnout is real, but I'm talking about it definitely in terms of teacher stress and real stress that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. I would put it this way. Burnout, it's when you're running on empty. You're running on empty. I mean, the car won't go anymore. And it doesn't matter how much you want to do what you're doing. It doesn't matter how much you love your kids, you love your job to a degree, and you're stressed out, but you're on empty and you can't go on empty. And then what happens is little things start stressing you out. Let me just throw out some typical symptoms of stress. They apply to teachers as well sometimes. Fatigue. You can't sleep, or you can't seem to get enough sleep. Let's put it that way. Now, teaching is tiring. So if you expect to be 100% by 3:00 in the afternoon, you got the wrong job. But you're going to be tired. And then you start just getting pains and physical pains and different problems. And you go to the doctor, and the doctor runs the test, and we get frustrated when the doctor says, there's no good reason, it's just stress. And we get frustrated with that because we want a med or we want a diagnosis. And a lot of times the doctor's right. It really is stress. And then when we are dealing with a lot of stress, one of the symptoms is every little thing just sends us over the edge. So the principal said, hey, I got a teacher who's got tomorrow off. I need you to do sidewalk duty for him. And we flip out. And something that small we should not flip out because we have to do an extra something for 30 minutes on one day, but it's because we have already built up so much stress.
Enjoyed this short clip? That was just a sneak peek into a full episode on the Teacher Edition podcast. We are passionate about supporting Christian educators like you. Looking for more inspiration and practical strategies you could use today? Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts.
Brought to you by BJU Press.